Sorry, I'm just getting the agenda up. Yeah, so can I welcome you all to the first virtual meeting of the licensing panel? Present at the meeting are members of the panel, Councillor Richard Armand and Councillor Angela Strachan. Other members included ward councillors, officers, applicants and objectors. Can I refer members and officers to the published protocols for holding virtual meetings? Can I ask the panel to note that the Licensing Act and Gambling Act panel meetings have particular rules about participation based on legislation, and the legal advisor to the panel can advise members on the rules if needed. Can the panel please note the following? Members of the committee should ensure they have their videos on at all times, but to put microphones on mute unless speaking. Other members and participants should switch off their videos and put microphones on mute until they are invited to speak. In case of a technical problem, the meeting will adjourn until the issue is resolved. If the technical problem persists and the meeting is incorrect, the meeting will be abandoned and rearranged for a later date. The meeting is being audio and video recorded and will be available to watch or listen to on the website. Would members and other participants raise their hand from the function toolbar to indicate when they want to speak? Please switch off your mobile phones or put them on silent mode. Receive declarations from members of the committee and other members. When declaring interest, members must identify the item on the agenda, state the nature of the interest, disclose pecuniary and non-pecuniary interests, outline the interest itself.
So do any of the councillors have any interest to declare for this meeting?
No. None.
No.
No. Thank you, councillors.
So please note, if a disclosable pecuniary interest is declared, then the member must be placed in the virtual lobby during discussion and decision making on the relevant item. So can the panel note that the licensing minutes are approved following each member, approved following each meeting by the member serving on the last particular occasion and signed as a council correct record by the chair for that meeting? Not submitted to the next panel meeting for approval. Licensing procedure. Can the panel note that the procedure that will be followed as set out on pages 5 and 6 of the agenda? Application for a new premises license for Stanmore Place Food Market, Unit 5, Stanmore Business and Innovation Centre, Sector House, Howard Road, Stanmore. So, introductions.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Alexander Lusowski. I'm acting as the presenting officer. I'm a licensing officer from the council. As was stated, this is an application for a new premises licence for the off-sale of alcohol at Stanmore Place Food Market, Unit 5, Stanmore Business and Innovation Centre, Sector House, Howard Road, Middlesex HA7 1PT. The applicant is also planning to do remote sales from the premises, which will be covered by the off sales. Objections have been received that the application will adversely affect the licensing objectives of public nuisance and the protection of children from harm. Thus, we have the hearing. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So, presentation by the applicant of their statement.
Yes, good evening, Chair. My name's Neil McCann. I'm the solicitor for the applicant. I have with me Amesh and Shalan, who are both business owners, with the latter being the DPS. Chair, can I maybe just check who we have from the objectors, because it might dictate how long I speak for. Not as easy to see online, is it?
Objectors, there are 36 people on my list.
So it might be easier, Chair, if I just read the attendees, and perhaps if that person, if they could just unmute and confirm, sorry, I put my camera on, that they are here and wish to speak at the meeting. So Mr. Ganatra is obviously the applicant, and then as Daniel Riley, I think, is here to make representations. Is that right, Mr. Riley?
Yes, that's correct. Hi, good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Mr. Riley. Thank you for confirming. And then there is, just bear with me, let me turn to my list of attendees. And sorry, this is slightly unwieldy because so many people made objections. There is Asad Rashid. Sorry, forgive me if I'm mispronouncing your name.
That's fine, Andrew. It's Rashid. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So Mr. Rashid is here from the objectors. And then I think that's all. Sikesh Manek, what capacity are you here in, please?
He's one of the applicants.
Oh, beg your pardon. Sorry.
Yeah,
yes.
sorry, I'm just using my brother's laptop because my one doesn't work on Teams. So, no, I'm
Right.
the business owner.
Sorry.
So,
It threw me as well initially.
yeah.
So I think the only two objectors who've attended are Mr. Riley and Mr. Rashid.
Okay. Thank you very much,
Thanks.
Lucas. Sorry, Chair, the second question is, can I just confirm you and your colleagues had a chance to read the statement of case?
Yeah.
Good, excellent. Okay, well, I will be very brief then in that respect. Just by sort of way of background, I'm not sure if you know Stanmore Place. It was first constructed about 10 years ago, but it's a beautiful mixed-use development. Now, whilst the development is very close to Cannons Park Tube Station, until very recently, there was one big downside with living there, in our opinion, and that was to do with grocery shopping. You had the choice, you could either get in your car and drive a number of miles to one of the large supermarkets, or you could go to two parades of shops, which are immediately outside development, a couple of minutes walk away, and they have a number of convenience stores with the usual collection of tinned and dried goods, not particularly exciting, and rather uninspiring wines, beers and spirits. We want to do something very different. We want to offer excellent food, beverages and interesting wines, beers and spirits. And I think the pictures attached to our statement of case really speak for themselves. You should have those pictures in colour if you follow the link. Yeah. Since we opened, we've had excellent feedback from residents. I've been copied into some emails by Steve, but I think one objection has been withdrawn. Another has turned from a negative objection to a positive objection. And certainly since residents have seen the objections being made, I think there was a flurry of attempted representations in favour of the application, but unfortunately they were too late. They didn't come within the 28-day period. If I can move quickly on to the representations. Whilst a number have been made, most are identical, and the issues they cover are rather narrow, and they're listed at page 9 of your committee report. Now, I believe that the written submissions we lodged last week address those concerns, but if I can add just one or two comments. Firstly, the concern that is raised a lot is the fact that we are geographically within 50 feet of a nursery. Now, in our opinion, this isn't an issue per se. I mean, I lived above a Tesco's, which was next door to a nursery. They shared a party wall, and that wasn't considered an issue. I think if it was a concern from a child safety point of view, you would expect to see a representation from child protection and or the nursery itself, and we have neither here. In terms of public nuisance and antisocial behaviour, again, we've addressed this in the written statement, but I think as a matter of course, there's no reason why an artisan food market should cause public nuisance or antisocial behaviour. However, the estate itself is very closely run. We are right next door to the estate office, and they arrange 24-hour security across the estate. In addition to that, they also have daily litter picking, with somebody going around the entire estate picking up litter. So, in other words, if there is anybody lingering outside the premises, they'll have not only our staff but the estate office on them straight away. And I think the final point that was raised was the sort of additional traffic. Now, put simply, there's no reason to drive to this premises. The vast majority of our customers, we can see already, are coming from, as we expected, the estate, and people living slightly further away want to come for our particular goods, can attend by way of public transport. Indeed, I actually drove to do a site visit the other day, and it's so difficult to park. You have to go in, register with the estate team, put your reg plate in, give them all your details, and then you're allowed to park in a certain spot. And if you don't, you get clamped. Realistically, no matter how good our produce is, I can't imagine people will be going to that effort to drive to our premises. I think, Chair, if it's okay with you, I might want to respond to some of the issues raised or expanded upon by the residents when they had their say. But can I just finish by saying that this application was made in conjunction with your licensing team, who were very helpful. And after it was made, we also had discussions with the police to agree further conditions. It's therefore, in our opinion, not surprising we haven't got any representations at all from the statutory authorities. Now, of course, if a premises licence is not granted, we can still sell food and soft drinks, which is what we're doing. The difficulty is that we think that a grant for premises licence will add an additional 10% profit to the business. And put simply, this could be the difference between having a viable business and one that has to close down. Therefore, we'd urge you to give us a chance to succeed and to show that we can be good neighbours. We are aware of the risk of the review application if we're not true to our word, and also the threat of a prosecution if we breach conditions. So therefore, if this application is granted, we will, rest assured, continue to work with both the statutory authorities and local residents. Unless my client is something burning to say, I don't think so. I will leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, just let me go back to the. So, questioning of the applicant and other persons by the objectors and the panel. So, do any of the councillors have any questions they'd like to ask?
Yeah.
Yeah, Richard, off you go.
Hey, I've three separate points I'd like to raise, if I may, Chair, and two of them are raised by the public objectors. But the first one is, if there are concern, Mr. McCann, about why you want to sell alcohol right from the beginning of your normal opening times, i.e. as early as 7 in the morning, what would you say about that?
Yes, thank you, Councillor. I did discuss with my client. We don't envisage there'll be much demand at 7 o'clock in the morning, but some people do like to do their shopping early and then go home. And much like when you go to a normal supermarket that can be open 24 hours and you're doing a large shop, you expect to be able to buy all the products that are available. Certainly, if there was any concern that we'd have people who are buying alcohol early in the morning, they were causing a nuisance, we stopped doing it. So we don't think it's going to be a massive revenue spinner, to use that term, first thing in the morning, but the inconvenience of having to put shutters down or remove the alcohol and have it at a later stage we'd like to avoid, unless very genuine concerns that having the ability to sell from that time would cause crime disorder or public nuisance. And certainly the police are very hot on this, so we're happy with the times.
Thank you. Second one is a discrepancy, or an apparent discrepancy, in number of security cameras between 9 and 12 has been raised, and you'll have seen that. What do you say on that one?
Chair, perhaps could I ask my clients to answer that one? Perhaps I did do a site visit. I didn't do accounts, and maybe they can send me a WhatsApp message, or they can. Well, I've just been told it's very quick. Typing 12 cameras, I've been told. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. And the final point I wanted to raise at this stage, again by public object, has been made the point that the footway is covered, and I presume that means the footway right outside your client's premises, and that may encourage people to congregate and potentially contribute towards a public nuisance arising from hanging around drinking, perhaps noisy behaviour stemming from that. What would you say about that?
What I would say, Councillor, is that there are a number of licensed premises very close by, just outside the estate, and we haven't seen, since we've been there, people congregating either on the estate or underneath the covering, as it were. But yeah, with the estate office being literally sort of next door, you have a lot of supervision. There's people actually who supervise the estate who are going backwards and forwards all the time, and certainly if we did see people congregating, our staff would be trained to make sure those people dispersed as soon as possible.
Yeah. Is it that the upstairs floors overhang the pavement, or is there a canopy there? I couldn't quite tell.
I think it's an overhang from memory. Maybe if my client can chip in at this stage, it'd be quite useful.
Thanks.
Thank you. I'll try and help with that question. Above the store is a commercial estate with a number of offices and buildings, and mostly small to medium-sized enterprises. So the risk of congregation is very limited, primarily because it's not an estate where people pass through, if you like, on a regular basis. Do the upper floors overhang the pavement? Is what I was asking. Yeah, no, I don't think that's the case. I think it is a covering over, but there are features that go above the covering, but it's not an office or a building per se. Okay, thank you. Thank you. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Angela, do you have any questions?
I have, yes. Thank you, Chair. Two points, really, one of which has been raised by Councillor Almond, and it relates to the opening or the licence application from 7 AM in the morning. One of the concerns I had is that sort of around 7:30, 8 o'clock, young people sort of living in sort of accommodation above the shop and on the estate in general are sort of heading out towards school. So I'm presuming that sort of if they were wanting to purchase alcohol, they'd be doing it at around that time. So what do you say about sort of opening slightly later to counteract that position? My second point is sort of in your submissions, I read a point that you raised, and my question is, how will you've said that you will ensure alcohol purchased by an adult is not passed to persons outside under the legal drinking age limit. Now, what steps are you going to take to stop that happening? And I suppose sort of part of the answer I'm looking for is what area does your external CCTV cameras cover? Is that a realistic claim that you can make, that you're not going to, you won't allow sort of adults to come in and purchase and hand over alcohol to children outside the premises? Those are my two.
Yes, so maybe if I can tackle the first, then I'll have an attempt to tackle the second, but I think my client needs to chip in as well, because they're the ones actually lodging the application. I came to this slightly sort of later on. In terms of the opening hours, we applied for at 7 AM for opening the sale of alcohol because we wasn't quite sure when the demand would actually come. I think people are coming in at 7 o'clock to purchase their groceries at the moment. We would like to actually keep that as an opening hour. We said if, I mean, our primary aim today is to have a premises license that's workable and allows us to actually start trading and building up a relationship and a track record. And certainly if it is a concern between granting or not granting in terms of the earliest of the hour, of course, we'd be just grateful to have a premises license from a later time of the morning. However, we have proffered the conditions. We do have conditions that state there has to be appropriate staff training, and also you have the Challenge 25 policy as well. So part of my argument would be if it's not going to be an issue because of the conditions in place, there's no reason to actually restrict the opening times in the morning. I mean, moving on to your second point, which is very good about and it does happen, adults being sent in for children to actually purchase alcohol. I think this is a potential concern on the other two parades of shops, the most convenient shops outside the estate. I would say is less of a concern here because A, you've got state-of-the-art new CCTV, and you have the other businesses around in the estate office. So it's very obvious if it actually takes place. Whereas in the other convenience stores, you can always nip around the corner and it's easier to do. But perhaps if my clients can actually chip in at this juncture because they know exactly where the CCTV is actually pointed.
Yes, I'll do that. Thank you, Councillor. One of the cameras, one of the CCTV cameras, actually points directly to the side of the building. So from the entrance to the whole kind of parade of the commercial side, we're obviously not allowed to point towards the residence area, but it does cover the whole section from the beginning of our store right down to the end of that parade of stores. So if there were any adults coming in to buy alcohol and then handing it over to children outside, we'd be able to see that. And of course, we'd put a stop to it and report it as per the guidelines from the police and from the licensing authorities. So that risk we have addressed through the CCTV point. I'd just like to also add a little bit of colour to the questions on the CCTV. The reason why the application was originally 9 and we went with 12 was because actually from a cost perspective there's not a big difference. So we decided to take the extra cautious approach than the original application, which is generally the way we do business anyway. So we're happy to invest more to ensure that any risks are properly managed. And as per Niall's statement, you know, if the timing is a concern, the reason why the application was quite broad in terms of time is because there's never been a grocery store on that estate. So we don't really know what the kind of customers' requirements are and their patterns. So that's why it's a broad time. But hopefully over the coming months, as we get to know the people, we'll have a better idea as to what happens when.
Thank you. If I can finally add, obviously in terms of potential sale to people who are underage, we're very conscious that an application is granted. A new food market and off licence could well be targeted for test purchasing, whether it be by licensing itself, trading standards, or the police. And my clients are very mindful if you fail a test purchase, you're in trouble. If you fail to, you could be facing a review, and all the time and effort spent getting the licence could be wasted.
Right, okay, thank you for that. But realistically, you can only make the latter statement that I raised in connection with the commercial side of the premises. You can't give any guarantee elsewhere on the estate. That was the point that I'm making.
Oh no, Councillor, I don't think anybody can. If an adult goes in and purchases a bottle of wine and then walks 200 metres round 2 corners and hands it to a child, I don't think any licensed premises can control. But
that is a claim that you're making in the notes. That is a claim that was made. You will ensure that alcohol purchased by an adult is not passed to persons outside under the legal drinking age. So perhaps outside.
Strictly speaking, that should be immediately outside or outside. Yes, I think it's a question of degree. Yeah, perhaps that could have been made more specific.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that. And just one more question. Could you just clarify for me where the drinks cabinets are in relation to the entry? Because
yes, they're about as far away as you can get from the actual entrance. So when you enter on the right-hand side, you then have various aisles, and you have the till on the far side, and next to the till there is currently 2 fridges which have just got soft drinks at the moment, and there's some shelves as well which we hope to actually put for wine. So not only do you have to pass through the whole shop to get there, but it's very easily supervised. It's within, you can touch it from a till, let's put it that way.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Alex, I see you've got your hand raised.
Yes, I would just like to clarify a point concerning the condition that was offered about stopping adults passing alcohol onto children. As Mr. McCann has explained, that's a very difficult condition to abide by. And so when we discussed conditions with the shop, we declined to accept it. We didn't include that in the final list of conditions because it's well nigh impossible to enforce a condition. Literally out of sight, out of mind. So although that was originally offered, we have not accepted that as a condition.
Yeah, I agree that the operating schedule is not just drafted in such a way, there are conditions, there are aspirations as well. So I appreciate that it does require a bit of work to actually put those points raised into enforceable conditions, and thank you for your help in that respect.
Thank you, Chair.
Would any of the objectors like to ask any questions? Hi, Daniel. Do you
Hello
want to
there.
ask a question?
Yes, please. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for hosting this evening's meeting.
Does he want to put his camera on?
Apologies, yes, I certainly will.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi everyone. So my objections largely evolved around the potential for antisocial behaviour within the development as a result of the sort of licence and the availability of alcohol. Quite often a counter argument to that has been made in reference to the security and the estate management office obviously being in close proximity. My question is, has there been any specific agreement with the applicant, obviously the owners of Stanmore Place Food Market, and the estate management in relation to managing any disruption or the use of the estate resources in that activity?
Chair, do you want me to answer that directly? Okay, so yeah, thank you, Mr. Riley. I'm about to hand over to my client because they've had long discussions with the estate before they were actually granted a lease for unit. In terms of, though, just before we deal with antisocial behaviour, and I don't want to make generalisations here, but the people who are generally hanging around drinking high alcoholic beers, drinking spirits, etc., they usually go to the lowest common denominator and try to get the cheapest, strongest alcohol possible. And in that respect, there are already long-standing off licenses within just 1 or 2 minutes walk of the premises. So we don't think having an artisan food market will exacerbate or cause a problem of this nature if it doesn't already exist. But perhaps my client can more specifically talk to the discussions they've had with the estate management office.
Sure, thank you. Daniel, thank you for the question. It's a good and important question. We spent probably about 4 months in conversations with both the business centre management as well as the estate management group here at Stanmore Place. As you know, the estate management group changed, or individuals changed in that period as well. So we've continued those dialogues with the new estate manager as well. And to be perfectly honest, a concern of security was never raised by either one of them from an antisocial behaviour perspective. Nevertheless, one of the conditions of our lease is to pay a service charge to the association here, to the estate manager, and to the business association here, to ensure that any costs required to include further security are covered. So that is part of a commitment we've already made to the business centre here, which manages the commercial estate, if you like. And to be honest, there's a genuine open offer for continued dialogue. If there's ever a concern of that, if there is ever a case where some of those things start to rear their heads, then we'll be very happy to sit with representatives from the Residents Association, as well as the estate manager and the business centre, to find the right solutions to make sure that those things don't happen. But to be perfectly honest, their concerns weren't there for those types of issues. And in any event, we are paying towards making sure security costs, as well as all the other services that we would require in the estate, are paid for as well.
And so if I can just chip in, residents will have seen my contact details at the end of the statement of case. If they have any concerns that they don't want to raise directly with my client, if this licence is granted, by all means they can contact me. But I'm sure my clients are happy to hand out their details at the end of this hearing.
Thank you, Daniel. Have you got any other question?
I have one more, yes, if I may.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Manick, for answering the previous question. That was very, very positive. Just in relation to the antisocial behaviour aspect, and I don't know whether to call it an assumption or maybe you know, drawing a stereotype in the antisocial behaviour stems from the sale of cheap alcohol. I mean, naturally we could debate that, but if we were to follow that line of cheap alcohol, looking at the potential list of alcohol for sale, there are prices as low as £1.80, which is not a great deal, obviously, in today's money by any stretch. And also, it doesn't have to be spirits. Now, the antisocial behaviour element, obviously, in worst cases, we're thinking violence and crime and so on. But this could be as simple as noise, increased noise levels due to people hanging around, you know, those lovely gardens, great place to drink a beer, you know, if you just so happen to want. And obviously, being a residential development, noise is quite a significant factor. You know, we have challenges in other areas that we are constantly trying to manage. So this was really the focus of antisocial behaviour.
Yeah, thank you. If I can just quickly add, I mean, in terms of, I think the £1.80 is for a single bottle of beer, and every supermarket is different, but you can generally get a bottle of beer for less than £1 in a supermarket if you actually look. And certainly in respect of the area being attractive for people to congregate, I mean, one thing I noticed is there's actually very little space to congregate that's comfortable. There's not many chairs, there's not many benches. And I think perhaps one of the reasons why you haven't seen, where many people have seen during this lockdown period, where quiet area, all of a sudden there's a lot of people congregating, so they can't go to the pubs and they can't go to the nightclubs, is that people know that this is a managed estate. And there are people, even I visited for now the other day, I saw a number of estate people walking around the estate, whether it's picking up litter or generally walking around the area. And I think this is maybe one reason why you haven't experienced antisocial behaviour to a great degree thus far. But certainly, I think the whole thing is a matter of communication. I keep on saying, you have my client's details. They are approachable. I think it's subject to view, but I think they're very approachable. And certainly, if there are issues, they'll be very happy to have those discussions in the future.
Thank you, Daniel. Is there anything else?
No, thank you. That's all from me.
Thank you, Daniel. Is there anybody else that would like to ask a question? No? Okay, we'll move on then. So, presentation by the objectors of their statement. So the presentation from the objectors?
I'm not sure we've appointed someone to do that on our behalf, but I guess we were thinking more everyone will individually speak.
Yes, if you wish. You must come on the camera though.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you want to speak?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think firstly, just to maybe just put a bit more light on some of the things that Mr. McCann said, because he's put a very positive spin on a lot of things, but I think it's worth just knowing the facts. So he said there are you'd have to get into a car and drive to get your groceries. And there are two parades of shops nearby. Those parades of shops are actually 30 seconds away. They have a Tesco Express. They have a number of off licenses. So it really calls into question why this particular store needs to sell alcohol anyways. The second, he said the estate office is literally next door. That's not true. Between them, there's the gates for the car park, there's another building, and then there's the estate office. And as someone else has mentioned, the estate manager has been changed recently. They have been quite incompetent. So there is a big gap between where this store is and where the estate manager's office is. The 24-hour security, again, has been quite incompetent because I have my car parked in the car park. On numerous occasions, I know a lot of people who have entered the car park, stolen catalytic converters from under vehicles, which is a very popular type of robbery nowadays. So, you know, there are incidents going on. I don't think Mr. McCann's true in saying the estate office is literally next door. If there's congregation, you know, they'll come and break anything up. I think the third thing is literally maybe a couple of doors down from where their market is, there's an ashtray that's been placed for people who would like to smoke. People do congregate around that point, and therefore there's equal chance that they will congregate around the store as well. The other things I'd like to mention is he said, why would others come? And, you know, he had trouble finding parking and he got clamped. Again, I think he's being a bit naive in thinking that everyone is going to follow the rules. That's not what's happening. We can send you statistics. I think just on the estate, we've had about more than 60 car parking tickets for everyone who is illegally parked over the last month. And obviously, if there's a store there, people are going to come and park illegally all the more. If you want, I'm sure the parking company can provide you evidence as well, because one part of the estate faces that Tesco Express. So we already have people who come onto the estate, park in individually assigned car spots for other people, and just walk down to the shops because it's easier for them to go that 30 seconds to Tesco Express. If we have a shop on site, we're going to see the same things again. Again, he's talked about antisocial behavior and the increased littering. I don't know if the photos that I had included are in front of you, but I think in the pack that was sent, they're on page 79 onwards. More than happy for you to look at those photos. There is already increased littering of bottles, discarded alcohol bottles, cigarette butts, just on and around our estate. Now, if you have this store selling alcohol from 7 in the morning, right? We have some lovely internal gardens and some lakes. Already during lockdown, what we've seen is people come in with their strollers. They've pushed their strollers around the lakes, broken a lot of our side lights, which light up the walkway. When there's someone selling alcohol in that close proximity, people are going to come, they're going to buy alcohol, and they're going to sit around our lake, and they're going to discard their litter there, and they're going to cause a nuisance. I think one of the other things is, again, in the email that I've sent, I have sent some incidents that have happened recently on the estate, which was there was a stabbing at Cannons Park, not very far away. There's an assault with a knife on this very development. I included links on Harrow Online, and I myself have been assaulted. I know someone else who's been assaulted on the estate, and he was stabbed because someone was trying to get a very expensive watch he was wearing. So there are already a couple of issues here in this very dense residential development. Adding alcohol in the mix from 7 in the morning, and as Daniel said, with prices as low as £1.80, it's not going to help the situation. It's only going to make it worse. And you know, what will eventually happen is that they will rely on the estate operatives to maintain some sort of security and order. As I've already said, we've seen from the car park thefts that they are incompetent. They really can't do anything. And on top of that, eventually our service charges will go up to pay for the increased security and for the increased litter picking and for the damages that are going to happen. So I believe there are a number of reasons there, and that's all I was planning on saying, but happy to jump back in once the others have had a chance.
Thank you, Asad. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Daniel?
Yeah, I'd just like to add that Asad has covered a wide range of points, which I'd also support. Those are several items that I myself didn't raise, but I recognise as being issues.
Thank you, Daniel. So do any of the councillors have any questions they'd like to ask?
I may do, but it'd be helpful for me anyway. I don't know about you and Councillor Murphy-Strock, and if the applicants asked any questions they've got, and we can come in and clear up after them if we need to.
Yep, that's fine. Mr. McCann?
I wasn't going to necessarily ask questions, but I was proposing to respond to all the points raised in my closing, or I can respond now if that's easier, Chair.
Yep, go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, thanks. So it's many obviously to Mr. Rashid. If it's no particular order, and if I've missed anything, it's because I can't read my handwriting. So please pick me up on it. In terms of my comment next door, whilst it doesn't share a party wall, I mean, I don't know the exact meters. It's literally just a few seconds away. It is a stone's throw. I think I can say that with absolute certainty. And be factually correct. I think a lot of the concerns raised aren't necessarily relevant to this licensing application itself. I think if there are concerns with the estate office, that is something which should be addressed directly with the residents of the estate office. Certainly, if it's something we can assist with to broker or assist those discussions, of course, we'd be very happy to do so. I'm talking about things like catalytic converters being sort of stolen and lit. I mean, there's mentioned that alcohol's already been sort of left, empty alcohol bottles. Well, we're not selling alcohol at the moment, so that's not actually coming from our premises. The fact that there are a number of off licenses in the nearby area, as is mentioned in your committee report, is not strictly relevant. This is not a cumulative impact zone, and every application should be treated on its own merit. So just because there's a Tesco Express, some off licenses, doesn't mean that we as a food market should be refused an application. In terms of the other queries raised, have I missed anything? Other parking. So to be clear, I wasn't clamped. I wouldn't be very happy. I actually registered, so I didn't get a clamp. But the concern is that, of course, if I hadn't registered, I would have received a fine. And whilst parking, I mean, firstly, that's covered by the planning legislation when people decide what use classes to put on the various commercial buildings, and that's been cleared off separately. But I think the fact that you've got a third-party enforcement company is handing out so many fines actually shows it's working. People are not going to keep on driving to a shop and doing their grocery shopping if every time they do so, they receive a very large fine. Sorry, Chair, maybe you're making better notes than me. Have I missed anything out or not?
No, I think you've done very well there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there anybody else that would like to say anything, Richard or Angela?
Yes. This question, either Mr. Rashid or Mr. Riley, or both, if they choose to, could answer. The photographs we've got of the outside and the inside of the shop look as though it is or is aspiring to be a high quality business selling upper range produce. Not, and this isn't a pejorative comment about Tesco, but not the same level of market that a small Tesco's would be going for. But I'm aware that photographs don't always tell the whole truth. Is that a fair? First of all, I don't know if either of you's been into the shop since it opened on the 21st at all, but does Is that a fair description of the sort of shop that it appears to be?
Daniel?
Yes, visually, I don't think you could fault the store. It is well fitted out, and you're right, it does give that impression of a more upmarket store. That would be correct.
So,
Asad, do you want to say anything?
No, I haven't been in the store yet, so I can't comment.
Okay. Do you have any other?
That's all I got. Thank you very much.
Okay, I think somebody else wants to speak.
Yes, Chair. Hi, it's Amish again. It's just as one of the owners of the stores. Mr. Rashid, Mr. Riley, again, thank you for raising your concerns. You know, they do matter to us, genuinely. And we will do everything we can to make sure that those risks that you're concerned about don't come to fruit. One of the things I would like to just clarify for you, I guess, just so that you have an appreciation of our thinking in terms of the aspirations we have for the business, is that in the same way as the look and feel of the business and the product range gives residents here a genuine alternative choice to Tesco's and the other surrounding grocery stores, we want to do the same for the alcohol range as well. So when you talk about £1.80 for one bottle of beer, and an international beer is actually not available in the local area. And for people that don't drink, that's fair enough. But what we're trying to do is complement our values and our principles of offering really good quality food that is commonly used in ethnic cooking, with a drinks range, both soft as well as alcoholic, that complements that type of cuisine. So what we wouldn't do is sell the types of things that are commonly used in antisocial behavior type of drinking. And I don't mean that whether it's cheap or expensive, but it's just not that market of the products that we sell. And they are really providing people who like to eat food from those communities or from those cuisines to have the complementary drinking products that go with them that aren't easily available in normal supermarkets, primarily to give the consumer a genuine alternative choice. And that's our ethos, and it always will be. And as I said, you know, if I'm sure both the estate management and the business management, I mean, if they're incompetent or competent, that's not for me to say. I've only been dealing with them for a month, but you know, we will work very hard with them to make sure that there is no nuisance or additional costs incurred as a result of us being here. If anything, we are contributing to those costs by paying a service charge ourselves as well. So I'm hoping that's taking issues away from residents' costs. And the way I understand it is costs related to the commercial estate versus the residence estate is not necessarily exactly the same. So I just want to reassure you that our intentions are to be genuinely good neighbours and provide a high quality service to the estate, not to cause any issues.
And thank you. Sorry, I've just actually read. You have to read now my notes. There's one other point I'd like to make, and I've actually seen this happen elsewhere. That when you have an estate such as this that's very quiet, it's wonderful when you're trying to sleep, but it can be slightly eerie if you're walking home late at night. And certainly with a shop such as this, with its lights on closing at 10 o'clock, can actually be a great benefit to residents, because it does deter people in the shadows from trying to mug people and do people down sort of late at night. So I'm hoping actually by just opening, having the lights on, that could be a benefit to the estate as a whole.
Thank you. Can we now have the concluding statement by the objectors, please?
Just can I ask?
Oh, sorry, Andrew.
Sorry. Okay. For just a quick clarification. In terms of business premises on the estate, how many are there, and sort of how close are they to the current premises that we're discussing at this meeting?
Yes, thank you, Councillor. The premises, our premises, is in a long line of commercial premises, and opposite there are residential premises and a set of commercial premises dotted around the estate. But perhaps obviously my client, I think, has all the facts and figures to hand. I did put some figures actually in the statement, but I appreciate it's not exactly where they are.
They're currently trading, the ones you refer to.
Yes, there's some aren't trading, some are trading.
Yes, just to kind of provide some information, that my the information we were provided is that there is room for up to 90 businesses. I think 65 or 66 are currently operating there. On the whole, post-lockdown, and now that the restrictions are easing, I believe more and more people are returning back to the offices. So it is there. We're not trading until 10 o'clock at the moment. We're trading until 8. Just because we're trying to understand the rhythm of the estate and what the shopping behaviours of people there will be. And the other thing I would also like to add, again, just to reassure both the panel as well as the objectors and the residents, that out of our 3 full-time employees, as it is currently, 2 of them are residents of the estate. So we've tried to create employment in the estate for people who live here, who can then work with, who can then provide a great service to their neighbours, and they have absolutely no incentive to make this a bad environment to live in. I personally have family that live in the estate, so we really want to provide an outstanding service here and be a good part of the community, not to be difficult.
Councillor Harman.
Thank you. There was one further matter I should have asked Mr. McCann earlier on. In your opening statement, Mr. McCann, you mentioned of the objectors that one had withdrawn and one was now actually a supporter. Could you tell us their names? We ought to alter our list of named objectors if you do have the names.
I do have the names. I don't have them printed out. I've looked for emails. Perhaps if committee services have those details to hand. So at the same time, I'll scroll through my hundreds of emails I've had today, but maybe if committee services could chip in, or I could come back to you at a later date, that would be great. I'm just having, sorry, Councillor, I'm reading the skimming and talking at the same time. So yeah, there is, if I can pronounce it properly, Yogesh Nakpal. And they say that rather than objecting, they would like to support and encourage.
Right. Yeah, that's number 24 on our list.
Yeah,
that's right.
And so that's in support now, right? And,
well, I'm sure your legal team will advise. I suppose if somebody's made a representation, they can then turn it round. But I appreciate that the people out of time can't actually make a representation for or against. And I think there was one else that withdrew, but certainly your committee services will have the full details. I'm getting this second hand.
Thanks.
Is there any other questions?
No, thank you.
Alex?
Yeah, Chair. The person that was withdrawn is a Bavish Mystery.
Thank you.
Is that number 20? That's 21, I think, on our list. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
Fine,
Yes.
thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, would the objectors like to make a concluding statement? Assad or Daniel?
Yes, if I could have a couple of minutes, if that's all right. Daniel, do you mind if I go first? So again,
course, yes.
Just trying to respond to some of the answers that Mr. McCann's given me on, having problems with the competence of the estate operatives or the theft of the catalytic converters. That I think he's kind of missing the point. The point is the objections are based on prevention of crime and prevention of public nuisance. Now, if there's already crime going on next door, you're adding alcohol to the mix, that's not going to help. And in terms of public nuisance about the congregating and etc., I've not really heard any answers from them. I think, again, with his point of the store with having the lights on could perhaps make it safer for people to walk home at night. That's just trying to put lipstick on a pig. This is an estate that has CCTV every couple of feet and big lights on anyways. So a little shop with lights on in the middle at around 10 p.m. isn't really not going to help. I appreciate he's trying to put a positive spin on things, and I do wish the proprietors of the store the very best of success, but I do have to believe adding alcohol to the mix is really not going to help. And I think another comment that they made earlier on is that a lot of the proprietors of the store are on the estate itself, and they are going to be doing online sales. I think that would make perfect sense if they were just doing online sales and delivering alcohol to people's doors. The fact that they are selling alcohol in open bottles, so it's not even the full packs of 4 of beer, they're selling single bottles of beer, means they actually do expect people to walk in and buy, and those people can walk in from anywhere. They can walk in from off the street, they can walk in from wherever they want. They won't necessarily be residents. They're going to walk in, they're going to buy single-use alcohol bottles, and they're going to be congregating and causing a public nuisance. So again, just to wrap up, the objections are based on prevention of crime and prevention of public nuisance.
Thank you, Asad. Daniel, would you like to say anything in conclusion?
No, largely just to support Asad comments there. I mean, naturally, it's been pointed out that there's a certain amount of litter already and so on, and that was counted. But obviously, you know, we're not looking to add to a problem that, as I say, we're already having to manage anyway. And we just feel that this would further add to the things that that already exist. And again, you know, the business owners, you know, it's not anything personal or anything like that. There are genuine concerns around the environment and the residential development that we live in, and also the increased elements that this will potentially introduce.
Thank you, Daniel, and thank you, Asad. Now the concluding statements from the applicant. Oh, Angela, sorry.
Yes, thank you, Chair. From the applicant, have you considered any additional ways in which you could deal with litter around your premises before we go on to your concluding statements?
Yes, Councillor, I think the first thing is that we don't want litter congregating outside our premises because it doesn't create a very good first impression for our customers. Our staff will be regularly sweeping any litter that arrives outside our premises. That is just good practice. However, if you have concerns that this won't be upkept, by all means put on an appropriate condition, something along the lines of, you know, the area immediately outside the premises will be regularly cleaned and kept clear of litter, or something, you know, words similar to that. I mean, I think that's a good point, and we don't want litter outside our store. It creates exactly the wrong impression.
Thank you, Mr. McCann.
Thank you.
Now, would you like to conclude with your statement?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Firstly, can I thank the objectors for their very constructive comments, and to say that regardless of what happens tonight, please come in, have a chat with us, keep up the dialogue, and hopefully enjoy what we have to sell. I would just say that a niche food market of this type, I think patrons would expect there to be alcohol products on sale, and certainly when you look at prevention of crime and public nuisance, this has been considered by the 2 independent experts, environmental health and also the police, and they are happy that it won't increase any problems that already exist. However, that was only done because further conditions were agreed with the police. For example, we can't have single cans that you can just click open. Bottles are more difficult to consume. You'll see there's numerous conditions that ensure the products we sell are not attractive to those people who want to buy cheap alcohol to consume immediately outside or nearby a premises. So I don't want to repeat myself, councillors. Hopefully we've answered all the queries been raised, but can I just reiterate that we want to be here for the long term, and please let's keep up the dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you. So that concludes our hearing, and the licensing panel will discuss. So thank you everyone for coming.
Sorry, Chair, can I just ask, is this going to be one where we get a decision in 5 working days, or are we going to be asked to log back on later on this evening?
No, I think it will be 5 working days, isn't it, Andrew?
Yes, it's 5 working days, so it'll be safe.
I've had my dinner now, can I?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Don't have your
Thank you
dinner.
very much to you and everybody else for your time today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you, everybody. Good evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.